The most spookiest experience happened to me 2 nights ago. Y'all want to hear it? When spooky-ish happens to authors writing spooky stuff, it's insane. Buckle up. All right, so where do I start? So 2 nights ago, because something happened last night, and I'm gonna make a video about that. So y'all need to come back for the second video to this. As y'all know, I'm writing like an entire spooky series, Las Cerradoras. First book is The Ordinary Bruja. And I don't know, I want y'all to let me know if it's like all here. Am I too involved in the novel right now? Estoy empapada de ficción. You know, I'm like just totally inundated with the fictional story. Or is this stuff really happening? Like, I need to know. So 2 nights ago, we were getting ready for bed, my husband and I. And usually, I make sure of this. I go to sleep first. So that way I don't have to hear the snoring and all that other stuff. So usually I go to sleep first. But this night was different. I was like, you know what? No, let me watch a little bit more Charlie Sheen documentary. I don't know why. I don't know why. It's just, I guess other people's chaos is very entertaining to me. And I was hooked. And I didn't want to like turn it off or anything like that. I just wanted to continue watching it. So I was like, okay, didn't think anything of it. Didn't think he was going to go to sleep that soon, right after he said, I'm going to go to bed. But he did. So he turned over. And right away, it was like the soft beginning of a snore. You know, people that snore, they begin softly at first, unless they're really tired. If they're really tired, then it's like a symphony, like a full metal symphony in there. But this was soft, so I knew the man was out. And not even a minute after, it's like we leave the door to our bedroom open because, sometimes our cat, Octavia, comes in and we don't want her to feel left out. But she wasn't there. She was staying on the couch last night. And when she picks her spot for the night, that's her spot. She's not going to move from that spot. She's very stubborn that way. And a minute goes by, and then all of a sudden, the door to our room, and this is distinct. It's like I get chills just thinking about it right now. Goes like, great. Like, it was insane, y'all. I'm telling you, I'm not making this up. I am not making this up. It was like a very intentional creak. And it was like I write those kind of creaks in my stories. No shit, in my head, I'm like, I can't believe I'm like, am I stepping into one of my stories? Have I allowed my imagination to go berserk? I really had those thoughts in the moment, but the creek was so long that I could have those thoughts and still analytically like go through it, analyze it, and know that no, this shit is really happening, like right in front of me. This door is moving. But of course, the analytical side of me is like, well, the fan is on. We have a ceiling fan. I look up. Fan is not on, guys. It is not on. So I'm like, creak is still going on. Okay, this is a long ass creak, y'all. And so I'm like, well, you know what? It's house is moving, just shift in air. God, I sound like my main character. And I stare at it because I'm like, I'm not going to get punked out, by this creak. I write these creaks for crying out loud. And I look at it, and once again, y'all, I am not going crazy here. There's a shadow, like a long shadow, just seems like a very tall person, you know, in front of the door. When you see kind of like those reaper shadows. Minus I didn't see nothing. It's just like a shadow, and it's very tall, almost to the top of the door, but not quite. And I'm like, oh shit, that's when I was like, oh, this is just going bad, you know. And then still I rationalize it, and I'm like, that's just, how the light has shifted from the TV. Because sometimes it does happen, right? Sometimes something else shows up on the TV, or the TV gets a little dark, so the shadows around it, lengthen for whatever reason. So I told myself that, because that was the only thing on in the room. Everything else was off in the room during that time. Just the TV. The TV playing the Charlie Sheen documentary on Netflix. And then I just put it to that. I turned over to my left side, and I'm like, I'm just going to watch it. Wait until I get tired, not on my phone or anything, so I don't have the blue screen. But I do have the TV because I like the sound too. And I just do that. The creek stops, you know, and I just watch the episode. Then my bladder starts knocking. And I'm like, not the time right now, bladder. I'm like, not the time. This is like the worst time for me to get out my bed. And I'm feeling like a little kid, right? Because these things used to happen to me when I was a little kid. Maybe that's why I write what I write. There's always something paranormal in every one of my stories when you think about it. Yeah. Yeah, now thinking about it. Yeah, there's something like that in every single one of them. And it just takes me back to when I was a kid. And, you're afraid of shadows and you see something shift and stuff like that. And then you just don't want to get out of the bed. And then you just, pull your covers over you. I'm a grown adult. I'm not pulling my covers over myself. I didn't. For real. But then I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to get punked out. I rationalize it again. It's probably the air, or when the TV, the documentary went from one scene to the other, then it happened. And I tell myself that, and I get up, but still, I look down when I get when I get out, because it's always like this irrational fear of like a hand just going. And I'm like, I get out of the bed, put on my chanclas, and go to the bathroom. But I was like, but I'm not doing it in the dark. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I just, don't turn on any lights. But that's usually when the room feels normal, right? Most of the time it doesn't. So most of the time when I get up to go to the bathroom and do my business, I turn on the light and keep it on. And that helps me to feel a little bit safe. And that reminds me of something that I wrote, and y'all gonna see it when you get the Ordinary Bruja. And in there, Marisol goes through something similar, where she's like, I'm gonna turn on. Gosh, that was the same thought I had. That's why I wrote it. But that's how I feel. If something's not at me, like at me while there are lights on, and it's all spooky and dark and shadowy and all of that. So I turn, the main light to the bathroom on, go do my business, come back, leave the light on. While I'm not tired, I don't want to leave myself open for more. So that's when I was like, you know what? I'm going to put my little eye shades on and then just roll over to my right side now and then try to go to sleep. Not really tired. Wouldn't have done it if it wasn't because of the freaking creak. So I go ahead and do it. And then suddenly, you know how you feel when someone is in front of you? Like, that's how it felt. But I can't see it, right? I have my eye shades on. But it's like, like something is there. And my altar is right next to me. So here's my bed, here's my nightstand, here's my altar. I've been so lazy. I bought this great fabric from Michael's to turn it into a tablecloth, but I haven't hem it. That currently the altar has papier-mache as tablecloth. Now, when the fan is on, the papier-mache goes, it crinkles. But once again, the fan was not on, guys. Why was the papier-mache tablecloth just crinkling? I was like doing this little dance, and I wasn't seeing it. I was hearing it. And I knew it was a papier-mache tablecloth because I've heard it make that sound when the fan is on. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not looking. I already know how this turns out. I've wrote scenes like this. I've watched movies like this. I'm not looking at it, But curiosity. Now those characters make sense, right? Because it is something about just that curiosity that overrides the survival instinct because I know better, right? Like I know better. I know not to look. I know not to engage it, right? That's how I treated all of that as a kid. But here I am, and I don't know, maybe it's just me unconsciously like trying to get more material for the next stories I write. I don't know. But I go like this, just pull. I feel so dumb. And I see an indentation on my cushion. I have a cushion in front of the altar that I use to just like commune with it, meditate, so forth, so forth. And it's indented. Mind you, I don't think I've sat on the cushion, anytime soon. I don't know. Maybe Octavia the cat has, it's a lot of possibilities here. So once again, I rationalize it. I'm like, that doesn't mean anything, an indentation on the cushion. It doesn't. It could have been me that left it there from a while back. Or it could have been my cat that, wanted to commune with the altar as well, and then she sat there. Or it could have been whatever that spirit playing with my paper mache. But I choose to think that it's not the third option, but one or two. Okay, option one or two. And I was like, I put it, I put the eye shade back on, the little bit that I had pulled out just to take a peek at it. And eventually I go to bed. But that paper mache was dancing for like a good solid few minutes. And once again, no fan was on. We don't even open our windows for anything. There wasn't really a draft that I could think of. I don't remember it being a draft or anything. And really, our house is not drafty. This is a fairly new home that we're renting, so all these things, still, what's going on here? But I want y'all to tell me, like, am I getting too deep into my books? Or is there something there? I don't know. Have y'all experienced something like this? Let me know what spookiness y'all have experienced. All right. Come back for the second one where I'm going to talk about last night, which was the next night after this one. Now I'm really wondering what is going on here. That has never happened before. So this is me having just edited the video and I'm about to publish it today into YouTube. So y'all need to watch this one. Then I'll record the next one and I will schedule it for tomorrow. But now I'm really thinking, I mean, like, is it my luck that it is so glitchy right now? My computer, this has never happened before, where the video completely like just blinks out, shuts down, and then the audio gets jumbled like that. Using the same CapCut, using my camera on my Mac, everything is the same as what I have done before. The only thing is what I'm talking about. That's the only thing that has changed thus far. So now I'm really like wondering what is going on here. I'm back for the next video.